Hi guys, welcome to Third Stall Garage. My name is Doug. This is episode 5 of restoring a 66 Mustang convertible called Vin. If you haven't watched the other previous 4 videos, I encourage you to go back and watch those. Click subscribe, hit the bell notification, tell your mom, the postman, your neighbors about it, share if you would, and come along for the ride. Today's episode is about fixing the A-pillar. I had some pretty significant rust and Bondo issues on my A-pillar, also on my driver shock tower. So today's episode we're gonna learn, and I'm gonna share how I repaired those with you so you can learn how to do it too. Thanks for following along. So the shock towers are the place in the car, obviously, that hold the upper A-arm, the lower control A-arm, your spring, and your shock. They also are a part of the Mustang that, particularly in this lower area down here, can be prone to rust. Looking at my passenger side one now, it's been sandblasted. There's evidence of a little bit of pitting that's happened, but overall the top of the frame rail looks pretty good, and I don't think any of this needs repaired. So I was pleased with that. You can see how I cleaned it up after removing the fender aprons, and soon we'll be welding those back in. By the way, fantastic news, I have a firewall. After spending 2 months trying to find one, all the places I tried were back ordered. I waited 6 weeks. They said one was coming in, and then it didn't. I was able to find a guy named Aaron Enlow, who is a great member of the Mustang community, who had an extra one he was willing to sell and ship to me for a reasonable price. This is my driver's side shock tower. Now, as I'd found examples in other parts of this car, I had some repairs that were done really well, and I had some repairs that were done poorly. You can see that this shock tower has been repaired. There's a patch panel here, patch panel that goes up there, one across the side, and one on the back here. And I believe there was one that was added to the bottom. It may have been bent this way. I'm not 100% sure. But these welds look good. They haven't been ground down and hidden. Sometimes you get stress cracks in these bolt holes. These all look pretty good to me. So I feel good about all of those repairs. This area required a little bit more work. And there's a patch panel behind here, but then on the outer side of the patch panel, where the previous owner had put a patch panel in before, the metal was still thin. So I ended up welding this up and grinding it down just to thicken the metal that was there. Does this look great? Nah, it's mediocre. But I feel like it's strong, and I'm confident in it. I feel good about the structural integrity of it. Aesthetically, nobody's gonna ever see this on the car. Now the back side of the shock tower, give me a second. Not as flexible as I used to be. The back side of the shock tower looks pretty good now. I will probably, when I get ready to prime this, add a little bit of filler to this, sand it smooth, so it looks generally stock. You can see that there's some repairs down here, and I ground those welds in, so overall they look pretty decent too. Now I'm going to show you some still photographs of what some of that welding looked like on the back side of this shock tower when I received the car. And I'll probably do a voiceover on that, or put some text on for you to take a look at a couple of those pictures before we move on to the A-pillar. All I have to say is, oh my. The conclusion I've come to is that the individual who did the welding on the outside with the patch panels that was done well is not the same individual who did the welding on the inside. Here you can see the finished product. It's not perfect. I think once it's filled, painted, it's going to look good and it's solid. Let's now move on to the A-pillar. Driver's side cowl panel completely out. It fought me every single step of the way, but now I can see the A-pillar. and some of the ugliness that I have to deal with. There's some patches here that need to get cut out and replaced because it's thin on the back side. Thinking down here, if anybody can tell me if that's supposed to be a hole there for water to flow down or whether that's supposed to be completely closed off, that would be great. On the inside of the A-pillars where my most of my ugliness is. Patch up there that needs to be replaced, patch down here that needs to be replaced. All right, on this part of the A-pillar, I'm not even really sure what it's supposed to look like. I think this is the hole for the switch that recognizes if the door is open or closed. I don't know if this is supposed to flow right into the dash or if there's supposed to be a seam there. I'm wondering if somebody can send me some pictures of what a good, A-pillar is supposed to look like. And any reactions or advice for patching this together. I'm decent at welding. I can weld pretty strong and grind it smooth and hide it.
So here's the process I used. Basically traced out with a Sharpie the rectangle, cut it out, and then found a similar piece of repair metal that was the same thickness. Tack welded it in. Now I was using a flux core welder, so I had to keep the welds clean. It causes a little slag to form on top, but basically welded all the way around and then used my little angle grinder to blend it in. And I repeated the same results for the different pieces. So this is the lower patch, cut out, tacked it in, and blended the results, and you really can hardly tell that there was a patch there. Repeated the same thing in the lower front corner of the A-pillar, cut that out, fabbed up a little piece, welded it in. The cowl patch panel will slide behind there, cowl side panel. Same thing on the top of the A-pillar near the windshield frame. Tack welded a piece in, blended it down. This was the hardest piece to do. I had to sit in a milk crate and stare at this for a couple hours before I came up with a plan to cut out the bad metal, fab in small pieces for repair, weld them together, and I'm really happy with the results, and I'm excited to show you.
So you can see from the stills that it's just a matter of attacking it piece by piece, and I'm really happy. Here's the finished project. You can see this part where I marked it out with pen is removed. Eventually the cowl side panel will slip in there and that will be buttoned up. This patch cut out, welded in, looks great. This one looks great. Bottom of the A-pillar here is nice and solid and smooth. It's not quite as smooth as I'd like it to be. I might need to blend that a touch more. And then I'm really happy with the way this came out as well. This curve looks pretty original all the way through and smooth. Again, the cowl side panel will slide up in there. Then I'll button that up and then a small patch here. So I'm really happy with the way the repair came out overall. And my takeaway from this is that if you just take your time, attack things methodically, think about it, and do your best, you can tackle more than you think you can when you're feeling down and overwhelmed. Next episode is going to be interesting. It'll be about how I straightened the frame. So stay tuned soon for part 6 in the restoration of a 1966 Mustang called Vin. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Feel free to comment and ask any questions or make any suggestions you want.